we are all inventors. And as we become adults, we forget that we're inventors, that we are problem solvers, that the world is full of problems and people who invented things to make them easier. So why not try something?
Think about, is this only for me or is this for other people? What type of people? Is it a niche or is there a big enough window of opportunity for a lot more people to use it? One of the most important things that I do for myself, and I work with other inventors the same way, is to make sure that you're working on your own invention, right? You don't want to be at step 4, 5, or 6 and say, oh my gosh, like I didn't do a patent search with a patentability opinion, or I was searching with my eyes closed because I didn't want to find anything that existed out there. But realistically, you want to know that it's your invention. If you have an idea, take action. Hopefully, this type of message that we discussed today gets you to a point where you're moving forward with your idea instead of being that woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Before we get started, I wanted to pause and thank you. The fact that you're watching or listening means the world to me. None of this would be possible without you. And every time you subscribe, every comment you leave, every episode you share, it allows me to keep having these conversations with people I never imagined I'd sit across from. So if you haven't already, please do hit the subscribe, tap the bell so you never miss an episode, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. This podcast is a journey we're building together, and I couldn't do it without you. So Brian, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's go directly to the inventor coach. I think that it's fascinating how so many people have ideas, how many people die with those ideas. And some people even try a little bit, but what you've done is really catapulted so many ideas to reality, to patents, to businesses. Where did that story begin?
Well, I think about it a lot, and I kind of try to think about when I was growing up, how I used to be curious how things were made and how things worked. Not from a destructive point of view, but just to be able to understand things and just see how things were put together. And as I kind of have gone through my life journey of being a single man, then getting engaged and married and having a kid and watching my kid grow up and, just all the things that I do, my family does, and also constantly people watching, I'm always seeing how things are being done and thinking about how they can be done differently or better. And then also some things that don't even exist to be able to put them into the world. And it's interesting also because a lot of times I come up with ideas and turn them into inventions from things that annoy me. And that turns into just making sure that it's not just me. Is it just me? Am I nuts to kind of think that way? Or do other people share the same type of frustrations? And those are kind of ones that have hit a home run for me.
And, being an inventor, it takes so much courage. It takes so much, like you said, the home runs come from the ones that other people share the problem. Other people share the need or desire for a resolution. What was the earliest moment in your life, or what invention made you think this could be my life? I could become an inventor.
As I started to come up with these ideas, I started to put them down in a spreadsheet and think about, is this only for me or is this for other people? What type of people? Is it a niche or is there a big enough window of opportunity for a lot more people to use it for the same reason that I invented it? So I think at a certain point from a marketing perspective to say, you know what, I think this one is good. This one maybe I'll put further down on the list. This one I think is good. And just thinking about how many people can use it. And then simply enough making a prototype, which doesn't take much these days. You can either take things apart and make it for yourself, or you can do a CAD file and make a 3D print. It's that easy these days. Or it's a cut and sew job where you're cutting things up or fabrics and either going to a seamstress or trying to sew it yourself to be able to make something that exists, or even something out of wood, whatever it is, to try to take it out of your head and put it in front of you to say, I want to try this. I want to see what it looks like. And I think just kind of going through that several times till you understand that there's almost like a little process here of how this can happen. But it doesn't always have to be that way. You can kind of skip here and there. But one of the most important things that I do for myself, and I work with other inventors the same way, is to make sure that you're working on your own invention, right? You don't want to be at step 4, 5, or 6 and say, oh my gosh, like I didn't do a patent search with a patentability opinion, or I was searching with my eyes closed because I didn't want to find anything that existed out there. I don't want my, nothing to happen to my, but realistically, you want to know that it's your invention, that it's something that you can continue with, protect with some sort of intellectual property like a patent, and be able to commercialize it so you can make some money with it. And I find that a lot of people skip those steps and they end up working on an idea that already exists or not enough of a difference. And that's one of the most important things that I kind of push to make sure that gets done in the beginning. Just like research and development, right? When you come up with when starting a business, you're doing research and you're checking to make sure that it's kind of a business plan in front of you to be able to get some kind of return from what you time, money, energy, effort that you put in.
I like how pragmatic you are, and at the same time, the dreamer, right? There's so many kids that when they are kids, they will say when they grow up, they want to become an inventor, they would love to invent, but that fades with adulthood. Why do you think that is, and how can people keep that spirit alive and be more pragmatic? Or perhaps what path did you take that many people did not?
I think as you grow up and kind of mature, you kind of get set in your ways and you just let things happen. And when you're kind of in the curiosity stage of growing up, I mean, you could be curious at any stage of your life, but I think it's interesting because when you're younger, you have more space to be able to think about how things work and how things function and how things that don't exist can actually exist. But I mean, I'm still inventing. You have that mindset. It turns into almost like a habit to almost like dissect what's happening around you or that you're doing or somebody else is doing and kind of find a new opportunity. But Ahmed, I would tell you this, when I have a chance to speak to young inventors, they don't even realize that they're inventors or to classify themselves as inventors until they kind of understand what it is that gets that title. For example, I go into classrooms and I have them listen to a couple of kid inventor type of things, like who invented the bubble gum or crayons, and just like things that they know. And then I bring some inventions with me. Like, let's say I take a pigskin official size football and I throw it at one of the kids, right? That hurt. I know. Well, that's why they came up with a Nerf football. And after the Nerf football, they came up with one that lights up. And then they came up with one that whistles when you throw it. And then I bring a yo-yo and I'm like, okay, who wants to try the yo-yo? One time, falls apart, got to wind it up again, right? That whole experience, very frustrating. But then look at this. Somebody came up with a automatic winding yo-yo. So you can just, right? It just goes up and down. And then there's one that lights up and glows and makes noise and all these things. So I kind of make them realize how things have evolved to make it so it's accommodating. But then I bring some inventions that maybe didn't do so great. And I say, here's an idea that it's a good idea, but it didn't exactly work the way that they expected it to, or it's not selling well. Give me some improvements. How do you think this can be a better and more successful invention? And then I go around the room and all the kids give me an idea and I want them to come up with an original one. And I said, you see, all of you are inventors. You just took a product or an idea or something that has potential, but not quite has made it yet. And you just improved it. And that's the start of getting their minds to think about it. And the best part about that whole thing is when their parents and the kids call up and go, Brian, I have an invention. I came up with an invention and kind of going through it. So that's so important to just plant the seeds of innovation. That's my article that I wrote for that kind of experience. And absolutely, I think there's always a time. I talk to people that are in their 80s that are still inventing. It doesn't matter. If you have that mindset, Ahmed, I think that it's just continues. You just got to get into that, just like brushing your teeth every day.
I think it's like so well put. We are all inventors. And as we become adults, we forget that we're inventors, that we are problem solvers, that the world is full of problems and people who invented things to make them easier. So why not try something?
Definitely.
Not necessarily for monetarily reasons, not necessarily for patent reasons, but just because it's sort of like our identity, right? It's who we are.
You want to make your life easier. If you do, then you have more time for other things in the world to do. So, or sometimes I work with inventors that come up with a new way to do something. And right now it might take me 2 steps to do, but they invented something really interesting and cool, but it takes 5 steps to do. And after the 5 steps, I have to take them apart and wash them because every piece is different than what the 2 steps were. So sometimes you can come up with something cool and unique, but is it an improvement? Is it going to make my life easier? Or did you come up with something cool, but you made it more complicated? And realistically, not everybody's going to want to use it that way and just be happy with the 2-step process. So those are the things that I kind of evaluate when somebody comes to me with an idea. Is it your own? Is it something that, do you have the time, money, energy, effort to put into it? Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to build a brand out of your idea? Let's say you come up and you have this tool and that's kind of your anchor product, but then there's other things that people usually buy that are associated with that doesn't have to necessarily be an invention. Now you built a brand and you could start selling it that way. Or are you somebody who might want to sell your invention? And sell your invention could be where, let's say you have intellectual property, let's say you have a patent or you started a business and maybe there's some value to it that they buy it from you. Or is it something that you might want to license to earn royalties? And so you get it to a certain point, you have some sort of intellectual property. That's most of the time how it usually works. And then they'll basically rent the rights to your patent. And wherever you've gotten, let's say maybe you have CAD files, that's like 3D drawings that you can make prototypes of, or you have some schematics or just kind of built it. And then all of a sudden they manufacture it. So they have, let's say if I have this pen and I came up with a really unique pen, and this is also a unique pen, I go to the pen company and say, hey, I also have a unique pen with some intellectual property protection. Would you like to add this pen to your product line? You would manufacture it, you would distribute it, and every time one of them sells, me, Brian, the inventor, would earn a royalty. And that a lot of people do that also. It's again, once I learn about somebody and their financial situation, their time restrictions or availability, I can help them to make a better decision on what they should do, either to start their own business and manufacture or possibly license to earn royalties.
As you were speaking, I'm sure there's a ton of people that never even thought of all these possibilities. And you've built your own inventions. Now you're an invention or inventor coach. When did that begin? Where was that calling come from? Of you're like, okay, I'm an inventor, but now I see other inventors that might need your help or might need your expertise to go further.
Well, I attended some local inventor clubs by me back in the day, and I had some levels of success with some of my inventions, and people started to ask me for help. And I love to help people and to educate. And all of a sudden, it was like I was talking to somebody in California, which is 3 hours behind, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning here in New York, and it's like 10 o'clock or whatever in West Coast. And my wife's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this quite a bit, just talking to a lot of people and giving them advice. That I realize that I probably am, well, I know that I'm giving some valuable advice. And again, every product and person is different. So it's not like I have a crystal ball, but I can help you to make better decisions and we can make them together. And ultimately you're the boss, so you decide what you want to do. But I realize that between my experience and listening to people and their experiences and talking to successful inventors and entrepreneurs and not so successful inventors and entrepreneurs over and over and over again, and building my own inventor club. And now I have the National Inventor Club, and building on my appearances on QVC, which is a home shopping type of channel, and being on air pitching inventions, and other people just keep showing me things and kind of navigating and guiding them through to commercialization. I said, you know what? Not only can I understand what you have and who you are, I can help you to get to where you want to go. So I hear people at all different stages. Sometimes it's an idea in their head. Sometimes they're further along the way. Sometimes they're selling their invention. But I find opportunities to be able to get them again to where they want to go. So I find out where they are and then take the steps to be able to get there. And that's the whole thing, is just having good resources, networking, and just being straight up with people. And again, one thing with me, Ahmed, is I'm not the guy to just say everything's great and wonderful. I kind of let your idea and what we find in search and kind of develop kind of do its own talking. And that's the most valuable part of the experience, is really to understand what you have and basically what the window of opportunity is. Again, I think that's very important, because you want to know what you're putting in and what you want out of it. If you want a patent to hang up on the wall, that's great. If you want to be able to make money with it, how are we going to make money with it? And that's what I do really good. That's my expertise.
And I think it's so valuable. And that's something that I feel perhaps people listening and including myself, I have to remind myself that we're part of a community. And when you need help, there is someone that has gone through what you've done already. There is no inventor, there's no entrepreneur, there's no investor that hasn't done it before. Even if your product is different, of course it's going to be different. Of course it's brand new. Of course it's a different world, but the skill set is still there. How would you coach someone that has a great idea today to get to, let's say, to build a business around an invention?
Well, the first thing is to identify what that challenge was or the problem was and capture it. If you don't capture it, poof, it's gone in an instant. Somebody distracts you, calls, texts. Sometimes it's like that brain, that cloud that just all of a sudden, whatever you had in your head just disappears. So very important to capture it. Then be real and kind of go through and figure out if it's something that you can work on or not. Is it your invention? And just kind of going through whether it's searching at a store that you envision, online to take a look, and being realistic if it's enough of a difference. And then kind of building it, and however you want to build it, to see it and visualize it in front of you. Take it out of your head in front of you and kind of try to experience what it should be and what you envision it to actually do and work like. And then just kind of that fork in the road to decide, do you have the time? Do you have the money? How much money do you need? You might be reading something that you need. Sometimes people show me business plans, $1.2 million, and I can manufacture your invention, whether it's locally or overseas, for a fraction of that price. Oh, sometimes perception or what you read, you should validate. At this point, kind of working with whether it's freelancers or design houses or prototypers or factories locally or overseas, just kind of knowing what direction and how to get things done and who I'm talking to kind of cater what's in their best interest. You don't have to have a rocket science invention. I mean, we definitely need those. I'm working on wind turbines and, medical devices, which are extremely important, but they could be simple also, Ahmed. Like I'll show you, for example, I show you a couple inventions. Is that okay?
Love it. Yes. Thank you.
So, one thing, I don't know how much of a germ freak I am, but I like to wash my hands and doorknobs and different things or whatever. But, I realized that this was sitting on the side of my sink. This obviously a little exaggerated, but usually when your hands are wet or dirty, you put it on top and you pull the sheet off for the paper towel roll, right? The sheet. So I realized that it wasn't just me. I asked my friends and family, take a picture of the top of the paper towel roll. Disgusting. Dried up orange juice. I don't even know what else was on there. So what I did was I came up with a cap like this that goes into the inner tube. I'll show you. There's kind of like a curve there, right? It goes into the inner tube of any paper towel roll. So now when your hands are wet or dirty, you put it on top, you pull the sheet off, and it stays clean and dry. And many people who have been purchasing this appreciate that it keeps the paper towel sheets from kind of flying off to keep them tight on the roll. So that's my paper towel topper. It's been selling really well on my website, papertoweltopper.com, and also on Amazon. And it's got over 500 reviews on there that are pretty high reviews. Simple, nothing crazy. But again, many people have paper towel stands, right, with sheets. And then I started to see people buy 2, 3 of them. And I started to ask them, where do they go? Like, you have one kitchen. I have one in my playroom. I have one in the bathroom. I use, in the bathroom, we don't have towels anymore. After COVID, we use paper. So there's a lot of people that use paper towel rolls. And that's just as simple as that. There's other inventions that I've come up with, and it kind of started off. This is one of the prototypes on another interview that I discussed, was almost like an original prototype. But I had to get, I wanted to come up with a sphere that you can open up and put your snacks in. It was originally for like scooping potato chips and pretzels. That when you're eating, everybody sticks their hands in there. Well, I saw people stick their hands in. And instead, I wanted to have this almost like as a server, but it kind of looked almost like it was developing a face. So what I did was I went to a company that makes containers, and I licensed my intellectual property, my patent, to them. And they had some really interesting faces to put on there, like Elmo, Cookie Monster, the Ninja Turtles, and all types of different opportunities came around, but those were the ones that did really, really well. And so this was licensed. That means that every time one of these sold, here's Mr. Or Mrs. Elmo, I'm not sure. Every time one of them sold, they would have to pay me, and they'd have to pay Sesame Street and Nickelodeon for the Ninja Turtles. So that's kind of an example of what licensing is. My paper towel topper, I manufacture, but I'm just kind of explaining almost like the way, like the snack containers. There's a lot of kids and parents and different types of things. So that it's good, but I don't know how many senior citizens, let's say, would want it. So there's one more just kind of to make this point. Here's another invention that I've sold millions of dollars of, and it's called pull ties. This is one of my first inventions. And you take any plastic bag, freezer bag, cereal bag, you put it through the loop, you push the button, you pull it up, and it seals it tight. So I originally started with this being something for bread, right? To seal the bread bags, because those not the chip clips, but the plastic tabs or the twist ties, they annoyed me. So I came up with this. It's called pull ties. And basically, if I said that this was only for bread, then maybe you like bread, maybe I like bread, maybe 10 other people don't like bread or care about what that is. But I said, not only can you use this for bread bags to seal, right? But you can use it for cereal bags, for freezer bags, right? In your pantry. Other people said that you can use it for wires and cable management and those type of things. But the point is that if it started off with just bread, it would just be this. But cereal bags, freezer bags, this, that, boom. And then when I was on air, basically all I had to say is, how many people have a kitchen?
Everyone.
Right? So that's the point, as opposed to somebody saying, you know what, I have a golf ball and everybody in the world plays golf. Well, not everybody in the world plays golf. Maybe when you're at the golf course and you look around, there's a lot of people that play golf. But do you play golf, Ahmed?
I do.
Okay, well, there you go. I would like to play golf when I have time eventually, but right now I don't. But a lot of people, when you step out of the golf course, they probably don't play golf. So that's the point. That might be niche, even though there's a lot of people that do play golf. So these are the type of ways that I kind of look at other people's inventions. And again, I've pretty much worked in every industry and category where people come to me with ideas, and I can have high profile celebrities to people who are on a shoestring budget or unemployed. It doesn't matter. Everybody at some point or another is coming up with an idea. And the question is, what are you going to do with it? You're going to capture it, or poof, it's gone.
I love the idea, capture. It's such a fast action. It reminds me of like a camera. If you don't press the button,
you lose that moment.
You lose the moment.
Right.
And you know, the name of the show is Return on Identity. So your identity became an inventor, but then you went to do media, influence, and so many other multidimensional. And you mentioned a little bit about QVC and going down that route. But before that, so many people are stuck becoming a product, but you didn't get stuck in the product, because you might have said, I invented these things and then I'm done. But you said, I'm an inventor, so I'm going to keep inventing. Did that ever click to you? Or was it conscious? Was it unconscious? And how do you suggest people to mold their personality, or perhaps to mold themselves or free themselves and keep inventing?
I think that being involved in and running my community, I have this Inventor Smart Community app that you can download on Google Play or Apple App Store. I have different ways that inventors keep in touch with each other, and just being in the world of just always talking to inventors. You know what? Each other keeps us going. I think that's what it is. Like, once you understand the kind of flow, the workflow of what you have going, I think it just becomes a natural part of your daily activity. And just doing all these things, sometimes I reflect back and say, yeah, I was this inventor that didn't know what I was doing, got ripped off by people, and just kind of going through this and educating other inventors or people who have an idea that don't even call themselves inventors to say, you know what? I want you to find me first. I want you to come to me first. This way I can guide you in the same way that I would do the same thing like you should be doing. And that's where it turned into more of just saying, you know what? Like, I'm nothing special. If I can do it, you can do it. You just need the right information out there. And I like to be that person to educate. I feel great when I do that. Obviously, just watching people turn their idea into a business. I don't care if it's mine or yours. Just it's like a natural high for me. And that's what keeps me going every day. Just seeing people like make money from their inventions, see things come to life, just watching people buy what you invented. That's the gold right there. It could be one. I don't care. Somebody just buy one of your invention. That's a self of accomplishment. And you know what? Maybe that's good for you. Maybe you want more. And obviously you have to put more in with marketing and PR and social media and everything else to let people know about your invention. I don't have it here with me right now. I brought it for another event, but one of my inventions is Extra Space. It's a collapsible egg tray. You know, people buy it and wow, it's so cool. It's a very unique. It's a tray that pulls out, and as you take your eggs out, it closes up, and you just need that much space left for the 2 eggs or less remaining. And people love it. That's great. But how do they know that it exists? You're not going on Amazon or going online to say, you know what? I think I need a collapsible egg tray because I want to save space in my fridge, right? So
Yeah.
I got to pay for when you go on Amazon to look for a storage container for eggs to say, you like these, but maybe you might consider mine, Extra Space, right? And I got to pay. So I have to watch to see, am I spending more than what I'm making on this, right? Or am I good? And then just kind of catching on to the algorithms of Amazon or eBay or Walmart.com and all these different online retailers. And then just being able to make sure that you're going to have a return on what you're invested in, to whether it's production that way, or you don't have to worry about any of that stuff and you earn a royalty, a percentage of the wholesale cost. Most of the time, that's how it works if you're going into a licensing deal to earn royalties.
How would you demystify the notion that you shouldn't share your ideas because somebody else would copy them?
Yeah. Well, most likely you're going to need other people's help. And the way to do that and protect yourself is what's called a non-disclosure agreement. That basically puts me or anybody else that you give one to on notice to say you are not allowed to show your idea to anybody without your permission. Okay. So if you have an idea, Ahmed, okay, I'll sign a non-disclosure agreement. I'm not talking about your idea to anybody without you letting me know it's okay. And that's something that we both sign. We have a record of, and that you could feel comfortable with saving it that way. You can send emails to kind of confirm these type of things also, but a non-disclosure agreement is good. Also having even what's called a provisional patent provisional patent application, PPA. That means it's a filing date. You can file that with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, which you could go to uspto.gov, and you can file one, or I suggest you have a professional do it for you. And when you do file that, it's kind of a broad kind of placeholder. You can say that you're patent pending. It doesn't mean that you're getting a patent. It just means that you can hold the date within that year. You would need to flip it to a non-provisional patent application, otherwise known as utility patent. So that's how it functions and works and kind of talks about your invention. Or another option is a design patent, and that's ornamental, just the shape of what it is, but it's not as strong as a utility patent that has claims. So just kind of going through that to make sure that, again, you're working on your own invention, that there is a shot to have patentability on it and be able to say that you can call it your own, and then have some better options of those paths of licensing or manufacturing or selling your intellectual property, these type of things. And that's how you can say, you know what, this is the time that I can show it. I'm patent pending. I'm going to go through and maybe make my design drawings for it. I'm going to make prototypes. I could talk about it and feel confident that I'm protected.
So practical and so immediately demystified. Because some people, I thought when I asked that question that you were going to say like, well, it's all execution. It doesn't matter who you tell because really it takes so much work to get anything to the finish line or to the starting line, not even the finish line, the starting line, that who cares about your idea? But the way that you said it, it's very much, you don't even need to worry when there are laws to help you feel protected. And even if you don't know anything and you were, I don't know, maybe you're a doctor and you don't have the business sense or the marketing sense and you tell your idea, you can go as easy as NDA, filing a provisional patent, sorry, and then being able to share it with someone and say, hey, what do you think? Do you think this could work? This could be a good or no?
Yeah,
Opens the conversation.
definitely. Or you hold on to it, you don't talk about it, you don't do anything with it. And then all of a sudden it's 20 years later and go, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? And you don't want to be one of those. So you got to kind of do the best that you can, protect yourself. There's the reason why these things exist. Sure. Could there be bad actors? Could there be people? But at least you have some protection to be able to say that you were first and to show that and to have that intellectual property protection. That's what you got to do. Otherwise, you just stay and you're stuck and you think about it and you watch other people iterate and innovate. You got to take a chance, but you do it in a way that you protect yourself along the way.
For sure. And you said 20 years later, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but 20 years later, it could also appear in the market because if you thought of it, somebody else might have thought of it and actually got it
Right.
done. And then you're going to be the one that says, I actually thought about doing an iPad or an iPod or whatever, but you didn't. So what
Right.
good is it?
That happens a lot. Believe it or not, people tell me all the things that they invented that somebody else, I guess, brought to market and got the
crushed it.
credit for. But if you have an idea, take action. Hopefully, this type of message that we discussed today gets you to a point where you're moving forward with your idea instead of being that woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's why I do these interviews, and that's why I do the most that I can to educate people with big ideas out there to just keep them moving forward. That's what it's all about.
Thank you. What about as a coach and perhaps going into your media side and how you got into that space? There must be ideas that you don't personally believe in, or perhaps something that you're like, I'm a little skeptical. How do you balance that? How do you navigate someone might see it different than you? How do you navigate that and how do you bring it to market, even though you might be a little bit skeptical?
Well, I have this thing where I guess a lot of times I keep people moving forward, but probably more times I kind of am a heartbreaker. People are very emotional, and I shouldn't laugh because it's, people put a lot of money into things. They are very emotional about their inventions. They're sometimes leads them to make not such good business decisions. And that's what I really want people to know is that when you come up with an idea, you're starting a business, do your research and development. Know that it's something that you're going to put your money and time and energy effort into, again, to get some kind of return. But a lot of people don't. And they close their eyes and they just keep going, or they go to step 6 because somebody told them how great and amazing it is, because they had all these things to offer them. Just like anything that you do in life, Ahmed, right? I mean, you could be doing construction in your house and, maybe it's a good idea to interview a few contractors, but the one contractor comes over and says, just picture yourself in this beautiful spot and doing all these things. And, and it's going to cost 10 times more than the next person that didn't necessarily paint that. So the point is that do your due diligence, get some references, know what it is that you're getting yourself into. And that's what I like to do also is have people understand what it looks like all the way over here before they start. This way they can make that decision when they should do it, how they should do it, if it's something that they should save up for along the way, if they might be limited on funds. And even some people, I had this NFL player that was inventing something, and I showed him that it's pretty much the same thing that already exists. And he's like, yeah, but Brian, but I'm like, but it does that too. Yeah, but Brian, it does it, but it does that too. And he had his little girl next to him. And I said, you see your girl right next to you? I know you want to spend the money and it's easy for you to spend, but put it into your daughter's college fund. because realistically, it already exists. Like if you wanted to do the same thing, then maybe you can private label it, put your own brand name on it and start selling it just like they are. But if it's an invention, it's got to be enough of a difference. And realistically, and again, I'm not giving legal advice, but when it's that obvious, you have to make a decision. And sometimes they might need to hear it from me because their emotions are taking over more than their business sense sometimes. Not that they're not, a business person, but, a lot of times, Ahmed, people are inventing because they want to be gazillionaire, right? They want to be the next millionaire inventor. And I understand. And you want to change your life and your family's life and all that. So the emotions get to you more than making those type of decisions that are better for you. And that's what I have to balance sometimes also. And those are some hard conversations, but I'm an inventor and you're an inventor also. And I'm kind of putting things out there. And if it's the last time that we speak, because this idea that didn't work out, I'll probably speak to you again. Because if you have that mindset, you'll come back again when you have your next invention. But why work on something that you're going to go in a big circle and end up in the same spot with less money, time, energy, and effort than you started with? For what, right? So I don't make that decision. I'll put the perspective in front of you to make that decision. And that's how I kind of manage people's expectations.
I love it. What are other common myths, perhaps, about inventing you wish you could erase from every aspiring inventor?
I would say that just setting expectations. I said that a few moments ago, but it's really important because people are very excited. And just how I gave you the analogy with that golf ball invention, people think that everybody in the world is going to buy their invention, want their invention. People are going to just come up with an invention and just sell the idea for $1 gazillion. It's tough. And I put things into perspective for people to say, you need to do a little bit more work before you get there. And sometimes it makes sense to people. And that's what I kind of put in front of them and then figure out if it's something that they should continue or not. But yeah, just coming up with an idea and somebody just buying it is a long shot. It's possible. Anything is possible. I believe that. But realistically, putting a little bit of effort and skin in the game doesn't have to be tons of money, but just being able to get it to a point where somebody can kind of pick up where you leave off if that's your plan, or being able to save to be able to do what you need to do. I think those are really important. And then to hear people with all these expenses for starting a business with an invention. I mean, I know that there's some that are much more complicated that probably cost a lot. But sometimes people show me simple things that they heard from something or somewhere that it's going to cost all this money, and it really doesn't. Not all the time. And when I put that into perspective for somebody to say, okay, we need this done, then we're going to get some quotes from some factories, and if you want to try locally in the U.S. or overseas, whatever it is, and then being able to, but what about the minimum order quantity? All right, well, it might be a little bit more because you're doing less volume to start with, but you still have good margins there. So let's see what that looks like. And then you're going to sell it on Amazon. What's the percentage that the commission there? Or are you going to have a sales rep? Or, is it going to be in retail, in a brick and mortar? Or like we kind of figure all this out before we start. And then you kind of can see it and then figure out what direction and what steps you need to take and what you need to be prepared for coming up. And that's what I do every day.
And those are great two myths that need to be broken for sure. And I would say it reminded me of when I studied entrepreneurship, a professor I had said, the first day that you have a great business idea, everyone will ignore you. And then once you keep growing, people will probably make fun of you. Like even your family, even your friends will be like, did you see what Brian is doing? Like, what is he thinking? And then as you get more successful, they will attack you. No, but Brian, he was lucky because, he was right moment, right time, like sort of a backhanded criticism. And as you become more successful, then your friends will say, I always believed in Brian. I always gave him the pat in the back. I always say, you should invent, you should keep going. And that really stuck with me because when I started my first business, I remember crying from frustration of thinking, I put so much work, I put so much effort, and no one wanted to buy from me. If I did what you said, getting the hard truth, getting the expectations to reality, probably I would have noticed that, okay, yeah, today they don't buy, but it
Right.
takes a while.
Yeah, but you're working smarter now, not harder, and you see the
Correct. Correct.
mistakes that you made, or the lessons learned. And
For sure.
I'm in the middle of taking. Well, I'm almost done with my master's, 51, and I'm trying to finish up my master's as soon as I can because eventually I want to teach. So maybe I'll use your advice there that you heard for my students at some point. I'm going to teach innovation, entrepreneurship, invention. I'm really excited about that. But what another part of what you said there, Ahmed, is when people are working on their inventions, they're asking their friends and family what they think. And they're going to tell you how great and amazing it is most of the time, or maybe they're like you might have said, maybe they're resentful and they don't want you to be successful. Who knows, right? Depends on what family member you're asking. For the most part, it's hard to get straight up answers from them. So there's a lot of ways to kind of get solid information and feedback from people that you don't know. And how do you do that? Well, these days it's easy. There's online platforms that are survey. I have one of my sponsors is PickFu, and that's an online survey. And you put in your criteria of who you want to answer your questions that you kind of present, whether it's for pricing or what color you might want this thing to be, or is this a solution that'll help you on a daily basis, and how often do you, and you kind of figure out from the feedback if it's something that you should move forward with or not. And it's people that will just tell you straight up, and then you can make better decisions from people that you don't know and decide if that's the way you want to go, stop there or continue. I actually did something with one of my upcoming inventions with this online survey. And then I put a report together. I gave it to a potential licensee, and they tested the product, and it validated exactly what my research did from my people and it was really good. And we have a deal on the table right now. We have a term sheet for one of my next inventions that you're going to see on TV. So
Beautiful.
hopefully we have to, term sheet means that you're almost to the full agreement. So we're still testing and we're checking for pricing on the product and making sure that there's enough margins before we move forward. But that's closer than just saying, you know what, everybody wants my invention, my family, everybody said it was amazing and wonderful and I'm amazing and all this stuff. But you want the facts because you're going to be spending, again, time, money, energy, effort. Those are like my words. Like, is that for you? And are you making the right decisions? Or do you want to feel good, right? I feel better when I have money in my pocket than wasting it on something that isn't my own invention or realistically nobody's going to buy. And I've had a few of those, but that's where I learned along the way. And now I don't make those mistakes, and I try to work with people to help them not to make those mistakes. This way you can put your money into something else or your next invention.
Yeah. So valid. I mean, seeking the truth, the fact, the reality, because you're right. Your friends will always say the cake you made is delicious. The food you create, until the minute that you say, actually, the cake costs $60. Then I'm not gonna buy your cake for $60. And then you say, wait, would you?
Right, or you see the cake in the napkin underneath the chair.
Exactly. So that's what happens, and I think that's a super valid point. What is a principle of innovation that you will never compromise on?
Is it making life easier for somebody? Is it for a particular niche or an audience? Just gauging what my opportunity is. Those are really, really key. And thinking about what my intellectual property is. Do I have a strong case to be able to obtain a patent? Because when I do, I have more opportunity, more options. And I know some people might say, what's a patent? Somebody will rip me off. But you know what? Somebody tried to rip me off, and I showed Amazon that it was my invention. I have a patent on it, and they took them right down. So again, I think it's important to have, if you have a chance to get a patent, intellectual property, then go for it. If you don't, then expect that somebody else might make the same thing as you. And that's what happens a lot of times where, let's say there's inventions out there that maybe they're expired. They're over 20 years old if they're a utility patent, or they're expired at 15 years for a design patent. And now they're in the public domain. And I can come up with a good name for one of those products, and I can start to sell it myself with my new name. But you can too. And your next door neighbor can also. And now we're competing dollar for dollar or penny for penny online to see who's going to have the better price for the same type of product, right? You go on Amazon, Ahmed, and you see the same product, somebody selling it for $8 and another person selling it for 20. It's the same thing, right? So that's what happens sometimes is people can continue to make their product or to sell it, but then not going to be able to call it their own because other people can make it. So you have to really, from the foundation and where you are and what you are bringing with it along the way, to figure out what you want to build from it. Look, I can go online, I could buy this pen for 10 cents or whatever, and you can too. But is it something that's unique, novel, interesting, enough people are going to be able to find it and buy it for the same reason you came up with it? That's what it's about. And those are the things that I kind of take along with me and work to educate others before they make a decision. I'm talking about inventions for products. It could be a business too. I work
For
with
sure.
people with businesses. I work with corporations and kind of think about and look at what the problems are or the challenges in companies and what the solutions are. It's just looking at things from a different perspective and from an outsider and being brutally honest and telling people like it is, because when you're in that world and you kind of know what you're doing, you don't realize the things that could be because you're so into it. You talked earlier about maybe younger people innovating more than older people, but just being aware and knowing that there's opportunity around instead of getting stuck in your own ways and turning everything always into a habit, but maybe finding a better way to change that habit or to make your life easier or better, or other people to make their lives easier and better. That's what is a one motivation. Everybody has different reasons, but again, for me, like I love watching people enjoy inventions and see businesses grow and flourish, and even if they don't do so well, to say that they tried and investing in themselves, that's important. You're an entrepreneur who had businesses that you started, grew, failed, grew again. Doesn't matter, right? You don't know until you try, but you want to be able to hit a brick wall, come back. Are you going to hit the same brick wall, or are you going to look a little bit to the left and see that there's a little opening there and try that? And what you do is you work on things that are working, pull out the things that don't work to leave more room for things that work. And that's how you build a machine.
Absolutely. Brian, it was amazing to have you. So interesting, so inspiring, so motivating. And I love the capture the moment principle. That is wonderful. Hopefully you come back to the show, to the podcast, tell us maybe in 5 years that you become a professor, that you do the next some great invention, and you're already inspiring so many people. So I think having you back on and just telling your stories will be amazing. So thank you again
My
for coming.
pleasure. Thank you.